Adrian Blackwood and Sophia Sterling's wedding looked less like a vow and more like a merger announcement. The Crown Hotel ballroom blazed under crystal chandeliers. A champagne tower glittered like a glass pyramid. Media elbowed for angles as a giant LED wall declared in cool white letters, Blackwood Times, Sterling, a new era backstage. Adrian adjusted his tie. The tux fit like it had been engineered, not tailored. His shoes shone mirror bright. Everything was in place except his pulse. It wasn't racing. It was heavy. Heavy like a contract already stamped and filed. Son, his father's voice came low and even. It's time. Remember, this isn't just a wedding. It's a market signal. I understand. Adrian said the same way he'd said it for 10 years. Short, clean, emotion-free. Heels clicked like metronomes on the wood floor. Sophia appeared in a fitted mermaid gown, hand-sewn lace catching light with every breath. Cameras popped before she even reached the stage. Flawless face, flawless smile. She was magazine cover ready. She flicked a glance at Adrian, tilting her head. Ready, husband-to-be. I'm always on time. They walked out through a wave of applause. A camera zoomed in as Adrian's hand rested at the small of her back, precisely polite, perfectly memeable for tomorrow's socials. The officiant read vows like bullet points. They repeated them smoothly, the way you read quarterly guidance. A kiss to her forehead, right angle, right length. The room erupted. Adrian didn't hate any of it. He just felt like he was watching from behind glass. The way he watched price, charts, beautiful, bright, distant. After the ceremony, the families clinked flutes. Sterling Sr. shook Adrian's hand with the grip of a man who never misses. Welcome to the family. From today on, Blackwood and Sterling move as one. Looking forward to it, Adrian said, as if closing a clean deal. On the way upstairs for private photos, Sophia checked her phone. A friend's text lit the screen. Queen's status unlocked. Her thumbs flashed, obviously. Empire plus empire. Done. Phone away. Same photogenic smile still fixed. She said, Don't take this the wrong way. I respect you. This marriage is stable. I like stable. Stable. He repeated, neutral. Power, influence, order, a shrug. Love great if it shows up. If not, the pictures are still perfect. A sentence sharp and thin as a dressmaker's pin. Adrian didn't answer. The photographer counted down. Flash popped. Heads tilted, shoulders lowered. Hands aligned flawless choreography. In frame, they were golden. Out of frame, a fine sheet of glass hung between them. Close to midnight, the party wound down. The penthouse was staged. White flowers, warm candles, a champagne that cost as much as a used car. The city spilled below like a scatter of stars. Sophia set her earrings on the marble island. I've got a charity fitting in the morning, then a cover shoot. Your schedule. 9A.M. Exec meeting. 11 with Port Project Council. MAM, a tidy nod, like checking boxes. Also, I want an addendum to the prenup. The old one doesn't cover your newest equity grants. We already have a prenup. I'm careful, she said, smiling with the edge of a razor. I hate risk. Silence held for a beat. Adrian watched the city through glass. You're concerned about my shares. I'm concerned about anything that moves, she said plainly. Money, power, image. Her honesty somehow dried his mouth more than any pretty lie. He lifted the champagne, poured half a flute, set it down. Fine, I'll have legal draft it. Sophia leaned in and kissed his cheek, precisely where lipstick wouldn't mark. Sleep early, husband. And don't let anyone catch you leaving late. Optics. The dressing room door shut with a soft, polite click period at the end of an ad line. Adrian stayed where he was. The flowers were suddenly too sweet. The jazz track on loop felt overly sanitized. His phone buzzed Lucy, a grad school friend who'd become a therapist. Arranged doesn't mean bad. Just don't confuse stable with at peace. He read it once, killed the screen. The man in the window, a 35-year-old who just inked the biggest partnership of his life, stared back with eyes as blank as low tide. From the other room, Sophia's voice floated out, bright like a live stream. Yes, everything's perfect. We'll be top 10 power couples this year for sure. Adrian closed his eyes for one count. When he opened them, they were as flat as the glass he faced. He still believed in risk controls, in contingencies, in numbers. But tonight, in the exact moment people call happiness, a question he'd avoided for years slid into focus. If everything disappeared, what would be left? At the table, his assistant's email pinged with tomorrow's timeline and a link to the first headline. To Empire's join. Blackwood Times, Sterling. The word destiny showed up in the dick. Adrian almost laughed. Destiny reads great in a headline. He switched off the kitchen lights and stood at the glass a while longer. The city kept shining, no promises required. Somewhere, buried deep, a small switch flipped. Not for a new deal, not for a stunt, for a quiet experiment, measure where the true value lives. The jazz track slid to its final note. Adrian drew the curtains, leaving a thin ribbon of light like a stitched seam through the dark. He let one thought out into the room, small and steel-edged. Tomorrow, the test begins. The test started with numbers, not headlines. At 6:10 a.m., the city was still yawning when Adrian stood at his office window. Behind him, the conference room lights were already on. CFO Mara Chen slipped in, tablet under her arm. General Counsel Raj Patel followed, sleeves rolled once, expression wary. Codename Hollow, Adrian said. We simulate a liquidity squeeze. Mara didn't blink. Magnitude, pause buybacks. Quiet shelve to capex projects. Stretch payables, pull forward receivables. No panic. Friction. Roger's brow creased. Optics. Manageable, Adrian said. Cede to finance reporters with the prudence angle. I want to see who keeps their footing when the floor tilts. Mara tapped her pen. She knew who he meant without asking. Rog sighed. We keep it legal. You brace for noise press, board, counterparties. I'll handle the board, Adrian said. You handle the rest. Copy, Mara said. Hollow goes live at noon. By lunch, Treasury throttled non-essential transfers. Investor Relations drafted a calm sentence about discipline in volatile conditions. 2 boutique blogs got coffee and a hint. Watch Blackwood's buybacks. The first ripple hit home that afternoon. Sophia swept into the penthouse with 2 stylists and a garment bag. Fitting at 4, gala at 8, she called, halfway to the dressing room. And don't forget Geneva next week. I want the blue diamond. We may need to hold, Adrian said. She paused mid-stride. Hold what? The oxen, Sophia laughed lightly. You're kidding. We're tightening cash for a quarter, he said, even. Buybacks paused. PR will call it conservative. Her smile cooled a degree. Is this optics? Or something else? Liquidity, he said. Temporary, temporary, she repeated, tasting the word like medicine. So there's no ring. I said wait. She waved the stylists out and shut the door. When she spoke again, her voice was polished steel. I won't rearrange my life because you want to role-play CFO. We have expectations. An image. He could have offered her covenants and curves. He offered silence. We can still go to the gala and stand there empty-handed. Her laugh had no music. Do you know how that looks? Yes, something in his tone registered. She studied him, eyes narrowing. If this is a test of me, it's beneath you. For half a second, he thought she'd seen through to the quiet machine he'd set in motion. Then she said briskly, call your team. Fix it, I won't. Air thinned. Finally, fine. I'll wear archival. But I won't be embarrassed. She was almost out the door when she glanced back. Send your lawyer the prenup addendum. I want it signed before the magazine cover drops. When she left, the room felt 2 degrees colder. By dusk, a finance blog ran. Blackwood pauses buybacks amid market volatility. Neutral verbs, neutral tone. By morning, another sharpened it. Cash, crunch. At breakfast, Sophia held up her phone like a citation. I told you to control the narrative. It's controlled, Adrian said, buttering toast with unnecessary care. Then control harder. She slid the phone across marble. Also wear the navy tux tonight. Black reeds. Funerary. He watched her go, air perfumed and strangely empty. Lucy's text flickered through his head. Don't confuse stable with at peace. The day was meetings, calls, and measured fires. The board dialed in half concerned, half opportunists who smelled leverage. Adrian answered with the calm of a man who'd outlasted worse storms than Twitter. By late afternoon, Hollow was working. Vendors tugged for early payments. A supplier offered bridge terms. A sterling cousin texted Sophia, is Adrian? Okay, she didn't answer the cousin. She texted Adrian, fix it before the gala. He put the phone face down. The gala sparkled under museum lights. Donor wall glowing, cameras flashing, waiters gliding. Sophia was incandescent in liquid silver. Adrian moved through the circuit shake, nod, smile a millimeter. A reporter slid a question in. Mr. Blackwood, any comment on your cash crunch? We're disciplined, he said, and kept walking at the champagne tower. Sophia's friends clustered, heiresses with Pilates posture and barbed compliments. Sophie? Darling, one drawled, you must be so stressed. Markets are brutal. Sophia's smile didn't dent. Please. Adrian's fine. Of course, another cood, a shade too sweet. Though if you ever need a private bank of mine, specializes in exit strategies. Laughter thin, precise. Tiny knives hidden in laced. Sophia tipped her glass toward Adrian, then looked past him as if he were part of the decor. We don't do exit, she said, honeyed. We do optics. Later, near the donor's lounge, he passed her mid-whisper to a brand director. Keeping coverage bright, no somber palettes. She saw him and reloaded the smile. There you are, she said through her teeth. Try not to look like a cautionary tale. Something inside him cooled another notch. He'd built empires in colder rooms than this, but never with someone so close who felt so far. The next morning, Hollow tightened a click. A vendor mentioned delayed payments on a public call. A gossip site stamped trouble in paradise. Under a candid of Adrian stepping into a town car. He'd given his driver the week off. Sophia met him at the elevator, phone raised. "Why are you slumming it with a sedan?" "Because it's a car. It's a headline," she snapped. "And not the one we want." He held her gaze. "What headline do you want, Sophia?" "The right one," she said simply. "The one where we're untouchable." He nodded once. "Data received." "The addendum's ready at noon," he said. "Sign or don't?" "I'll sign," she said, already replying to someone else. "You should too." He did. At 12:07 p.m., his name went on a neat line under clauses that compartmentalized assets to decimal dust. She didn't look at him when she signed. She checked her reflection in the glass. "Congratulations," he said without smiling. "For what?" she asked without looking up. "For getting exactly what you wanted. That's the only way to live." When she left, the hush of the door sounded like a verdict. That night, he didn't go to the penthouse. He rode an elevator in a midtown walk-up to a quiet rental he hadn't used in years. No doorman, no concierge, just a key, a scuffed counter, and a window facing a brick wall painted with a half-finished mural. He made coffee in a scratched French press and opened a private thread. "Tamara and Raj. Hollow runs through Friday. We unwind after. Board meets Monday. Prep to decks, resilience, and retreat. I'll decide Sunday night. Mara, copy. You okay?" He typed, deleted, then, "I will be." He closed the laptop and let the quiet settle. Tomorrow he'd walk division floors as a senior consultant, ears open while Hollow ran. No nameplate, no entourage, just a man in a navy suit listening for truth. He lifted the mug, tasted the bitter, and finally let the thought land cleanly. If the test confirms what I already know, I file. He didn't type the word divorce. He didn't need to. Outside, a siren rose and fell. Somewhere, someone laughed, full and Adrian set the mug down, eyes on the painted wallers, if it might reflect him more honestly than glass ever had. Tomorrow, masks would slip, his, hers, everyone's, and when the floor tilted, he'd see who stayed. By Thursday, Hollow had matured from rumor to reality. Internal chat threads pulsed with anyone hearing, while procurement fielded calls from suddenly anxious vendors. Adrian left the midtown rental in a navy suit that said middle management and a badge that read a Blake senior consultant. No security detail, no chauffeur, just a coffee from a cart and the quiet thrill of being invisible in his own company. He started on floor 17 operations, fluorescent lights hummed, and ambition wore cardigans. He listened to a supervisor fret about shipment windows, to an analyst who had decoded 3 months of delivery lag with a spreadsheet and a migraine. He asked questions like a man who had to justify his billable hours. What breaks first under pressure? What held that you didn't expect? By late morning, he had a map in his head of where stress had accumulated. He rode the elevator to floor 22 digital initiatives where ideas were pitched in standing meetings and whiteboards fought for wall space. That's where he saw her. She stood at a corner table, sleeves rolled, hair caught back with a cheap clip that didn't match the sleek laptops and matte black water bottles around her. She wasn't trying to look like she belonged. She was trying to keep a wobbly slide deck from derailing. The team's project lead had lost control of the room. Voices stacked, fingers pointed. She lifted a hand. "Stop," she said, not loud, just inevitable. The room quieted a notch. "We can argue about design later. If procurement can't release the POS because finance has us in a bottleneck, then this sprint is fantasy. We either rescope or we slip and pretend we didn't." Someone snorted. "You're new, what do you?" She didn't flinch. "I'm new, not blind." Adrian found himself smiling, small, private. The project lead seized the pause. "Fine, 15-minute reset. Emily, you and Sari, what's your name?" He was looking at Adrian. "Blake," Adrian said. "Consulting, great. Emily and Blake, give me a list of dependencies finance will actually release this week. Everyone else, take 5. The room bled noise. Emily turned to Adrian with a look that said she didn't have time for theatrics. Up close, her eyes were slate blue, underslept but steady. "If you're here to sell synergy, I'm not buying," she said, already moving toward an empty huddle room. "I'm here to listen," he said. Following the room was glass on 3 sides, marker fumes faint in the air. She set her laptop down, fingers flying. "We planned this sprint, assuming routine approvals. Finance just rerouted everything into escrow because Treasury's hoarding cash. If we don't resequence to something cost-light, we burn 2 weeks asking for money that won't move." He asked time-rich, money-poor deliverables. She drew a quick matrix on the glass and boxed a quadrant. Documentation, UX testing with internal users, dev environments we can spin in-house. It's unsexy. It's progress. "What do you need to make that happen?" he asked. "Permission to stop pretending we'll launch a feature on a budget that's frozen." She blew a breath out, then added, softer, "and someone who won't throw me under a bus for saying it." He studied her. "How long have you been here?" 3 weeks, she said, then made a face at how that sounded. "I was hired to help get this platform off the ground, and I will." She gestured, toward the floor, the ceiling, the building, the city. "Can't alchemize funds from a press release." "What's your last name?" he asked. She paused. "Wells, Emily Wells," he repeated, like a data point to file and not a name he would think about later. She smiled, brief and surprised. "I keep thinking someone's going to ask me for a hall pass, then give them a roadmap." "Instead," he said, her fingers stilled. "Are you?" She tilted her head. "Are you actually listening or just good at looking like you are?" He let the corner of his mouth move 0.5 millimeter. "Both, but I can get you a room with finance in an hour. You have that kind of pull, consultant." "I have that kind of calendar," he said, and texted Rog, while they waited. He asked questions, and she handed him answers that were clear without being showy. She didn't perform competence. She was busy doing it. When she hit a tender edge, "I don't want to be the new girl who broke the sprint," she didn't dig in or look away. She let the truth sit, then continued. "Finance in 10, his phone buzzed. They walked to a small conference room where Raj appeared with a controller who wore skepticism like cologne. Emily laid out the resequence with the economy of someone who had learned the price of unnecessary words. Adrian watched the controller's face shift from defensive to curious. "We can approve that," the controller said at last. "With weekly checkpoints." "Deal," Emily said instantly. Like a woman who knew you, shake a hand before someone changes their mind. When the meeting broke, she stayed a beat behind. "Thanks," she said to Adrian. For not selling Synergy any time, he said. You did the selling? She hesitated. I should say, welcome, I guess. A wry tilt of the mouth. We don't get many consultants who don't bring a slide on value streams. I left my buzzwords upstairs, he said. Her smile deepened by a shade. She gathered her laptop. I have to turn this into a plan before the team reverts to panic as a service. Send me your draft, he said. On impulse, she lifted a brow. Why? So I can read it, he said, like it wasn't a larger truth than that. Her gaze flicked over his face, assessing, then away. Okay, she said, and left. He watched her go, feeling something unfamiliar unspool in his chest interest, uncorrupted by image, curiosity not sharpened into strategy. Then his phone buzzed. Sophia, dinner at 8. Bring the navy tux. And smile like we're not bleeding. He typed nothing back. Near 5. He rode the elevator to HR to review a nondescript policy update no one would ever read. On floor 22 again, the bullpen had gone into that late-day hum where exhaustion and focus make a truce. Emily sat with a developer, heads bent over a keyboard. She didn't see Adrian in the doorway, which meant he saw her without the reflection of being seen. The way she listened, the way she ceded ground without surrendering direction, the way she made space and motion at the same time. Blake, the project lead, jogged up. You a miracle worker, or do you just carry Rog in your pocket? Both, Adrian said. Wells is good, the lead added, like he couldn't help himself. I noticed, Adrian said. He left before noticing turned into anything else. At 7:52 p.m., Adrian reached the penthouse in the tux Sophia had demanded. The skyline glowed like an array of status LEDs. Sophia emerged in black velvet mourning, repackaged as couture. Practice smiling, she said, pinning a cufflink with efficient hands. No one buys a brand that looks tired. He held still. He thought of a glass room and a resequenced sprint, and a woman who wanted permission to be honest more than she wanted a headline. I'm not tired, he said. Good, she said, misreading him completely. Then let's go perform stability. They stepped into the elevator. As the floors ticked down, he set his jaw around a thought that fit him like truth. This wasn't about watching her fail. It was about watching himself stop, and he had started. By Friday, Hollow had acquired a taste for collateral. Slack channels filled with freeze and hold, and anyone else getting bounced approvals. Facilities postponed a chair order. Procurement renegotiated staples. AVP suggested right-sizing contractors like he was clearing a throat. Adrian Still, A. Blake, senior consultant, spent the morning on floor 22, where focus had hardened into a quiet grind. Emily was in the war room by 8, coffee she couldn't afford to ditch cooling by her elbow. A Gantt chart blooming on the glass like an X-ray. Morning, he said from the doorway. She half smiled without looking up. If you're here to ask how it's going, ask later. If you're here to help, grab a marker. He grabbed a marker. Checkpoints. Monday, Thursday, she said, drawing to clean lines. Controller bought the resequence with weekly reviews. We'll pull internal UX sessions forward cost light. It's not sexy, but it's progress. Progress is underrated, he said. Not by me, she murmured. And then, after a beat, you keep showing up. Consultants bill by presence, he deadpanned. She huffed a laugh. You're better at jokes than most. He watched her triage without theatre. She adjusted sprint scope, reassigned a blocker to someone with bandwidth, and smoothed a frayed ego with 3 words and an IOU of time. When an engineer muttered about finance killing innovation, she didn't defend finance or innovation. She defended the work. Blame takes time, she said. Time is the budget we do have. Adrian felt the recognition hit low and precise. He'd once built a company on the same math. At 10, Trouble walked in, wearing loafers and a smile. Alex Granger, VP with a perfect jaw and an allergy to accountability, leaned on the doorframe like he owned the hinges. "Wells," he said, friendly as a trap. "Heard you rerouted our sprint." "Resequenced," Emily corrected. "Finance approved a cost-light path. It keeps us moving." "Right, right." Alex ran a hand down the door, casual. "Because you've been here, what, 3 weeks? And you've got it all figured out." A few heads dipped toward their screens. Emily's chin lifted a millimeter. "Because I listened to the people doing the work. We don't have funds for paid testers, so we're using internal. It's not ideal. It's better than pretending." Alex smiled wider. "Funny, I heard you sold finance, a fantasy. We can do more with less plays, great in a downturn. Until it doesn't." Adrian stepped forward before he decided to. The controller agreed because the plan is feasible. Alex turned, finally seeing him. "And you are?" "Blake, consulting." "Consulting," Alex repeated, tasting it like a stale pastry. "Fantastic. Maybe consult your way into approving the budget we actually need. Or," Emily said calmly, "you can let us not waste 2 weeks on requests we know will be denied." Alex's smile lost a few watts. "Watch your tone." "My tone is the only thing in here we don't have to fund," she said. And somewhere behind them, a developer snorted into a sleeve. For a beat, Alex's eyes went flat. "If this blows up," he said softly, "it's on you." "Not me, copy," Emily said, dead steady. "I'll add it to my list between deliver value and invent money." Alex pushed off the door and left. Applause unsounded, but present. Adrian exhaled. "You okay?" Emily capped her marker with more force than necessary. "I'm fine. You didn't flinch." "I divorced a man who argued like that for sport," she said without dressing it up. "I'm not going to flinch at a VP with a vocabulary of 3 threats." Something in him stilled. "I'm sorry," he said, and meant it. She shrugged. "There's nothing to be sorry about. I left. I'm paying for it. It's cleaner than staying." He wanted to ask a dozen questions, and none. He settled for, "You're good at this." "I'm good at not wasting time," she said. "It looks similar." At noon, Rog pinged. "Board wants a preliminary on Hollow's impact." 4 p.m. tight window, Adrian typed back. "Conference C, I'll join remote." He didn't intend to. He intended to sit in the back of Conference C and watch who talked, who listened, who talked like listening at 2. A text flashed from Sophia. "Magazine wants us for a couple cover. Shoot at 6. Wear the white shirt. Smile like you mean it." He turned the phone face down at 3:30. He wandered past the cafeteria and found Emily at a corner table with a salad that looked negotiated, not chosen. She was scanning a PDF, pen tapping the margin. "Sit," she said, like she'd decided he would anyway. "You skipped lunch," he said. "This is lunch," she said. "It's not terrible if you ignore that. It's terrible." He tilted his head. "That's a life philosophy. It's a budget philosophy," she said, a small smile flicking. Then her gaze slid to the window, where rain stitched faint lines down the glass. I used to think money was a character test, and now it's a magnifier, she said. It makes generous people more generous. It makes hungry people hungrier. It makes cruel people efficient. Where does that leave you? He asked before he could file the question away like he should. Trying not to be efficient about the wrong things, she said, and took a bite of lettuce like it had offended her. Rog texted again, bored early. 3:50. I have a meeting, Adrian said, standing. Consulting meeting. She asked, eyebrow lifting. The most, he said. Good, she said. Tell them to fund honesty. I'll try, he said, and meant it more than she knew. Conference C filled with polished shoes and louder watchers. Mara presented the curves. Rog delivered the guardrails. Adrian stood at the back wall like a shadow and listened to a director suggest optics corrective, which sounded like makeup for a balance sheet. Vendor. Chatters up, Mara said, but fundamentals hold. We unwind Monday. We should exit with minimal scarring. And if we don't, the director asked. We will, Adrian said, before Mara could answer. Heads turned, frowns accumulating. He let it happen. What matters is what we saw while the floor shifted. And what did we see? Another director asked, dry. We saw who sold panic and who sold work, Adrian said. We saw where the process holds and where people do. He didn't say Emily's name. He didn't have to. He could feel, for the first time that week, the shape of a decision he would not edit Sunday night. The meeting broke at 4:22. Rog caught up to him in the hall. You're supposed to be remote. I was local, Adrian said. Rog lowered his voice. Hollow did what you wanted. You ready to pay the price? I already am, Adrian said, and headed for the elevator. It was still raining when he stepped onto 22 to grab a file he'd left on. Excuse, honestly. The bullpen had thinned. The war room glowed. Emily stood alone, hair damp at the temples, typing with the ferocity of someone building a bridge while the river rose. You're still here, he said. You're still everywhere, she countered, not unkind. Board went fine, he said. We unwind Monday. You'll get your POS back. Good, she said, and didn't glow with victory. Then we'll build the thing we said we would build. He hesitated. Can I ask you something? You already do, she said. Why here? Why this place? She thought about that for longer than he expected. Because I wanted to see if I could still trust myself, she said, finally. After you leave a life you thought you wanted. The only experiment that matters is can I make something better with what I have? He felt that like a tuning fork. You can, he said. She didn't look up. You don't know me. I'm learning, he said. Silence opened, not empty. The rain stitched the windows. The lights hummed. He could have stayed there for a long time. But his phone vibrated with Sophia's third text, white shirt. Now he pocketed the phone without replying. Good night, Wells. Night, Blake, she said, and then, like a dare she didn't know she'd issued, try not to look like a cautionary tale. He smiled, small and real. Working on it. In the elevator, he caught his reflection man in a borrowed name, tie loosened, rain in his hair. Fault lines were showing, yes, but so were truths. On Monday, Hollow would unwind. Contracts would unlock. Numbers would settle. He'd file the paperwork no headline could pretty up, and somewhere between floor 22 and the penthouse, He understood the strangest thing about the week. The stress test hadn't been for the market. It had been for himself. Monday would unwind hollow. Friday night would unwind his marriage. At 8:12 p.m. Adrian sat in the Midtown rental with a lamp that hummed and a printer that spit out endings. Roger's packet lay on the counter. Petition, disclosures, a cover letter so polite it could pass for a thank you note. The words were clinical, the kind that make a rupture sound like admin. Rog called. "It's clean," he said. "No fault. We file first thing. You okay?" Adrian stopped because okay wasn't a word that fit. "I'm clear. Clear's the best version of okay," Rog said gently. "You want me to loop, Mara?" "Not yet." He glanced at the clock. "Sophia's shoot. Wrapped?" "I saw a teaser. White shirt, city skyline. Caption about resilience." Adrian's mouth shaped something that wasn't quite a laugh. "Of course," he signed. The pen left a small groove in the paper like pressure memory. He scanned, sent, exhaled. Somewhere uptown, a photographer was editing stability. Here, a quiet printer had printed change. He didn't go home. He went to floor 22. It was 9:03 when he stepped into the war room. The office had thinned to its night bones. The rain had cleaned the city and left it shining. Emily sat alone, hair up with the same cheap clip, sleeves pushed to her elbows. On the glass wall, her sprint plan had been reworked, yet again efficient, inelegant, real. "You're everywhere," she said without turning, the ghost of a smile. "And you're still here." "Progress is nocturnal," she said, then pointed at the board. "Finance signs Monday. We flipped to switches. We stopped duct taping." He came closer. "And you sleep when—" "Q3, she deadpanned, then capped the marker. "I'm starving." "Do consultants eat?" "Sometimes," he said. "There's a truck around the corner that makes a quesadilla that could broke a piece." Her brow lifted. "You recommend street cheese during a cash crunch." "I recommend fuel." She hesitated. Then, 10 minutes. "If Alex Granger sees me gone, he'll file a report on my dereliction of duty." "I'll write him a white paper," Adrian said. They walked out into the damp, the building's glass reflecting them smaller than life. The food truck hissed and smoked at the curb. The man inside greeted Adrian like a regular. Emily ordered something humble. Adrian ordered what he always did. They stood under the awning, paper boats warming their hands. "This is reckless," she said around a first bite, eyes closing, faith briefly restored. "Reckless in a sensible way. Best kind," he said. They ate in a quiet that didn't strain. When she spoke again, her voice had shifted down. "I signed my divorce papers over takeout, lo mein," she said, not looking at him. He didn't show. His lawyer did. "I went home and scrubbed the counters like it was a ritual. The next morning, I went to work and pretended the world hadn't tilted." "What made it tilt?" he asked. "He wanted the life we said we wanted," she said. "The version with prestige. The version where I smiled and said yes, I wanted." "Not that," she shrugged, like there was no good way to name the thing she wanted that wasn't applause. "So I left. Everyone said I'd regret it. I do, sometimes, but not the part where I left." He stared at the steam lifting in threads from his food. "I'm filing," he said. Then, because it felt wrong to edit Monday, we unwind a stress test. Today I unwound a marriage. She looked at him, surprise and something like recognition passing through her eyes. You don't look like a man who does reckless things. I'm learning, he said. Why? Because stability without peace is a costume, he said quietly, and I'm tired of dressing for it. They stood in the hum of the truck and the soft hiss of the street, to people with paper boats and paper walls, letting sentences that could have been confessions be what they were, true and small. When they went back up, she paused at the elevator. Thank you, she said, for dinner. For not selling me a slogan, she said. For saying a thing like a person. He nodded. The doors slid shut Saturday morning. Sophia staged breakfast like a campaign. Croissants, berries, a vase of peonies that matched her robe. We need to align, she said, pouring coffee into cups that cost more than the food truck. The cover drops Tuesday. We have a charity panel Thursday. I want to confirm the Geneva trip unless you're still doing your performance piece. Performance piece. Cash theatre, she said. Whatever this discipline is. Her smile didn't reach anything that mattered. It's boring, Adrian. People don't follow boring. I filed, he said. She blinked. The sound of the word hit before the meaning did. Then, what? I filed, he repeated, the way you repeat a number when you know it's right. No fault. Our prenup does most of the work. Your counsel will get it today. For a long second, the only sound was ceramic meeting marble as she set her cup down too softly. You're serious? Yes. She laughed, a small, incredulous sound that wasn't joy. Over optics. Over us. We are us, she said, gesturing to the curated room, the skyline, the version of themselves that stared back from every reflective surface. We are the thing people want to be. I don't, he said. Something flared in her eyes, not grief. Not yet. Offense. Then calculation. You think there's another narrative that looks better for you. There isn't. You walk away from this and you look weak. You look like a man who couldn't hold the line. I've held lines my whole life, he said. The wrong ones. Sophia stood. The peonies between them smelled like effort. Fine, file. I'll handle my counsel. I'll handle the press. We'll be civilized. We'll smile and we'll survive. Because that's what people like us do. He didn't argue. There was nothing in the room that would hold an argument. Only angles and arrangements, she added, almost idly. Don't embarrass me. He thought of a rainy curb and a woman who shook hands before someone changed their mind. I won't, he said, and left. Sunday was quiet in a way that felt structural. He walked. He answered nothing. He read Roger's drafts for Monday's Unwind and Mara's 2 decks, Resilience and Retreat. He chose Resilience and sent a single word. This dot at dusk. He ended up on floor 22 again, as if he'd been tugged there by a magnet no one else could see. The lights were low. Emily was not there. The glass walls still wore her matrix, a geometry of honest compromises. He stood and looked at it the way you look at a painting you're not ready to leave, Mr. Black. Someone started behind him, then corrected fast. Blake. The project lead. We're set for Monday. Wells did. A lot, I know, Adrian said. You going to keep consulting? The lead asked, joking, not knowing. For a while, Adrian said. I learn more here than anywhere. When he left, the night was clean again, the air thinner, the city less performative. He walked the long way to the rental and, for the first time in years, didn't feel like the only person who hadn't gotten the script. On Monday, Hollow would end. The market would get its blood pressure back. The board would clap themselves for weathering a drizzle. Papers would move across desks in a courthouse and make a marriage into a record. And, somewhere between a war room and a food truck, Adrian had done a smaller, harder thing, told the truth out loud and let it stand. Paper walls rustle before they fall. He could hear it already. Monday arrived like a pressure valve turning. By 8 a.m., Treasury thawed a tranche of payments. Procurement's queue unclogged. Finance reopened the PO portal with a cautious green light. Slack bloomed with cautious relief. Finally, and the sacred meme of a cat pushing a brick labeled budget, Adrian came in early navy suit. Bland badge, a Blake. Senior consultant Tan took the elevator straight to floor 22. He wanted to feel the gears engage. Not read the dashboard. Emily was already in the war room. Hair in a loose knot, coffee in a paper cup that read optimism. She pointed at the board before he could speak. 2 switches flipped, 1 pending. We start internal UX at 10. If finance stays awake through lunch, we can stage Dev and V by end of day. Morning to you, too, he said. She angled a grin at him. Good morning. Try to keep up. At 9:15, the controller pinged. PO batch released. The room exhaled. Emily didn't say told you or see. She just turned the plan into motion with the economy of someone who'd been hungry and learned to plate quickly. By 10, the first internal users filed into sales reps, a customer success lead, a support agent who'd seen everything break twice. Emily handed them iPads and coaxed truth out of them with small questions that weren't small. Where did your eye go? Where did your finger hesitate? Where did you swear and why? Adrian watched from the back wall, arms folded loosely, amused at the speed with which she built a room that told the truth. The reps forgot the consultant, forgot the glass walls, forgot the week they'd all survived. For 40 minutes, the product was all that mattered. After session 2, Alex Granger materialized in the doorway like a thundercloud in loafers. Well, he said, clapping his hands once. Look at us shipping value. We're learning, Emily said without turning. Alex strolled in, performing casual. Great work, team. This is what leadership looks like. Adapt. Overcome, Adrian cut in before the pitch congealed. Leadership looked like resequencing when money froze, he said, easy but edged. This is execution. Alex's smile flickered. Sure, I'll take that in the executive update. Glad we aligned. You weren't in the room when we aligned, Emily said, finally facing him. But you can be in the email. A developer coughed into a sleeve. Alex's jaw hardened, but he pasted the smile back on. As long as we land the sprint, he said, and retreated. When he was gone, Emily scribbled executive update, facts only on the glass, underlining facts twice. Sorry, she said to Adrian. I don't have the diplomacy bandwidth today. You had the correct bandwidth, he said. It scales better. She tilted her head, considering him. Sometimes you sound like a consultant, she said. Sometimes you don't. What do I sound like then? Like somebody who's paid the price for saying things out loud. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. By noon, Hollow was formally over. Ear published a note heavy on words like prudence and positioned. Vendors got calls. Accounts payable ran like a river and Mara messaged, bored at 2. Quick debrief. Then we declare victory and never speak of this again. Adrian typed back. Victory, sure. Speak of it again, definitely. He stayed on 22 for the first wave of dev environments, set up 3 laptops. 2 arguments, 1 sigh of relief when the thing finally booted. Emily set guardrails and didn't micromanage, checked in without meddling. Her planner lived in the margins of a cheap notebook. Inside it, the week had become a map of earned inches. At 12:40, she nudged a paper bag his way. Fully opened it to find a turkey sandwich and an apple that looked like it had been chosen on purpose. "You're feeding the consultant now. You got me a quesadilla that prevented collapse," she said. "Call it even." He took a bite, then, because honesty had taken up residence near his ribcage, said, "I filed Friday." She blinked, then nodded as if filing a divorce were a detail like we deployed on time. "I'm sorry, don't be." "Clear, not easy," he said. "Clear is underrated," she said. "Easy's what got me married." He watched a smile touch her mouth without reaching for the performance version of itself. "You'll be okay," he said, surprised by how sure he was. "I have a job and a rent check in hands," she said. "I've been worse." He believed her at 1:58. He took the elevator up 2 floors and slipped into the boardroom through the side door like the world's most overqualified extra. The table was polished, the skyline dramatic, the language crisp. Mara ran the data stress signals, no cracks. Rog covered legal boundaries, never breached. A director floated credit subtle and ungenerous. Adrian let the theater run until it tilted too far. "Let's not mythologize a drizzle," he said, finally stepping into the center. Head snapped his way. The ones who disliked him did it with better posture than the ones who adored him. The market sniffed. We learned who panicked. We learned where process held because people did. We unwind, clean, and we invest in the teams that didn't flinch. Names. A director asked, partly challenge, partly defense. "Floor 22, he said. "The platform team, Wells. Others, he didn't sell. Fund the work. Avoid speeches about innovation while cutting the oxygen to it." A pause stretched. Then the chair cleared his throat. Motion to allocate incremental budget to digital initiatives. "Second," Mara said, almost smiling. Adrian left before victory could turn into self-congratulation. In the lobby, cameras waited. Divorce made better copy than buybacks. And a rumor had slipped the net. Blackwood Files. The security chief met Adrian by the elevator banks. "We can run you through the dock," he said, low. "It's fine," Adrian said. Then saw the cluster near the revolving doors turn toward a woman. In a navy blazer and thrift store flats. Emily. She froze like everyone. Does the first time they feel the climate change of attention? He moved before he thought. "This way," he said, appearing at her shoulder like a conjuring trick. He steered her gently toward a service hallway, flashed a badge that opened a metal door, and let it click them into quiet. She stared at him. "What why do you have? Consultants need exits," he said, a lame joke that bought him 2 seconds. "Is this about you?" she asked, reading the air like a weather map. "Those cameras, they weren't here for me." He hesitated. Lying would be easy, temporary, corrosive. "Yes," he said. "It's about me. Why?" She searched his face like it had notes she hadn't read yet. "Because some personal paperwork is public, even when it shouldn't be," he said. Not untrue. Not enough. Something like hurt flickered and was gone. "Okay," she said. "Thank you for the escape hatch." He held the door as she slipped into the back corridor. the concrete cool and blank. If anyone bothers you inside, outside call security. Use my name. And what name would that be? She asked lightly, but there was a hook in it now. He almost said it. Not here, not yet. Not like this. Blake, he said, uselessly. Still Blake. She looked at him for a long 3 seconds, then nodded. See you upstairs, she said, as if you could step around a mystery like a puddle. After she left, he stood alone with the hum of air ducts in his ears and the taste of unsaid in his mouth. The lie by omission was thinner than tissue. He could feel it tearing. Near 6, his car idled by the side entrance. He didn't take it. He walked in the rain to the rental, tie loosened, phone buzzing in a pocket he ignored. Sophia had texted a press statement, draft amicable separation. Mutual respect with edits that softened nothing. The board had sent her congratulations for a disciplined unwind. Mara had pinged a celebratory emoji. Rog had sent a question mark and then nothing, because he knew when to wait. Adrian unlocked the door and went to the counter and didn't turn on the lamp. For a while he stood at the window and watched the brick wall darken. The mural's half-painted shape looked like a door. He'd intended hollow to show him who stood when the floor tilted. It had. Now the ground had shifted again. And he was the one wobbling between names, between truths. Between a woman who loved optics and a woman who loved work more than image. He picked up his phone. Typed, deleted, typed again. Wells good work today. Proud of the team. He didn't hit send. He wrote a different message. Emily, if you ever need a quiet exit again, text me. B, he sent it. In the dark kitchen, the tiny whoosh sounded like a commitment he could live with for one more day tomorrow. He told himself he would say the name out loud. Not as an apology. As a fact. Paper walls rustle, then they fall. He could hear it now. The text sat on Emily's screen all morning like a dare. If you ever need a quiet exit again, text me. B, she typed thanks 3 times and deleted it 3 times. Then she went back to work. POs were moving, UX notes were stacked, and the sprint had transformed from triage to heartbeat. By noon, she'd stopped checking the lobby cams to see if the press had multiplied at 12:17. An invite popped onto her calendar. 1 p.m. conference, 17C stakeholder review. Organizer, a Blake. Required Wells. She almost wrote, can we not? Then sighed and clicked accept. When she walked in at 1, the room was empty except for him. No laptops arrayed like shields. No executive entourage. Just Blake, tie straight, sleeves down, eyes steady standing at the glass with the city cropped behind him. This isn't a stakeholder review, is it? She said, closing the door. No, he said. It's a confession. The word put a temperature into the room. She set her notebook on the table, palms flat. Okay, he didn't circle it. My name isn't Blake, he said. It's Adrian. Adrian Blackwood. Silence, the kind that finds your pulse and counts it. She stared at him. He held her gaze and didn't flinch. Somewhere in the building, a copier coughed. Somewhere outside, a siren bled into afternoon. Inside the room, everything narrowed to 2 people and 1 fact. She laughed first. A stunned, ridiculous sound that wasn't humor. Like Blackwood, Blackwood. Yes, she pulled in a breath that didn't do the job she needed it to. You're the CEO. Yes. So you've been undercover. In my meetings. In my sprint. In my cafeteria. She swallowed. And you let me call you consultant like an idiot. You weren't an idiot, he said quietly. I was a coward. You think that's the word. It's the smallest one that fits. She swayed back a step, like the floor had told the truth about itself. Why? Why lie? He didn't reach for a softer version. Because I was running a stress test, I couldn't run as myself. Because I wanted to see the company without people performing at me. Because he stopped, restarted, cleaner. Because I didn't want you to have to perform. Her mouth opened. No sentence came out. Heat crawled up her neck, some combination of anger, humiliation, and the sharp memory of a man who'd weaponized omissions until she forgot the shape of knowing. I asked you your name, she said, voice thin at the edges. You let me believe a different man existed. I didn't let you, he said. I made sure of it. Great, she said, to Bright. So we're not even pretending it was an accident. It wasn't. He came one step closer and stopped, as if the carpet between them had lines he was finally seeing. I wanted to hear you exactly as you are. No title, no filters. You were the only person in a week of noise who asked for permission to tell the truth instead of permission to brand it. And so you lied to. Get to the truth, she said. Each word a stone she couldn't not throw. Do you hear yourself? Yes, he said, and I hate it. She looked away to the skyline, to the whiteboard marker, anywhere else. I left a marriage because of a man who loved control more than honesty, she said, voice gone flat to keep it from breaking. You just put on a nicer suit. He took that straight on. I deserve that. Then why am I the one with the consequences? She gestured, wild and small at once. Do you understand what this looks like? CEO in a divorce, strolling around floor 22, rescuing a pretty staffer from cameras. Do you know what HR does with that? Yes, he said. Which is why I've already asked HR to recuse me from any decision path that touches you or your team. Your reporting line will be moved 2 rungs away from anyone who answers to me. I'll step off budget approvals if your project's on the agenda. And if anyone breathes the word favoritism, I will be the one they fight, not you. Her head came up at that. The words were clean, specific, expensive. She didn't thank him. She didn't trust him enough to. What else? She asked. I'll write a disclosure memo to the board that I conducted an internal assessment under an alias, he said. Not blinking. They'll hate it. I'll take the fines. And I'll put in writing that any interaction between me and you outside conference rooms stops. Now, a beat. Unless you tell me not to write that last part, in which case I'll still do it. She stared. You're asking me to make your rules for you. I'm telling you I'm done making. Rules that only protect me. Something in her unspooled, not forgiveness, not even relief. Just oxygen. This is going to hurt, she said, the practical part of her finally catching up. HR, PR, the board, Sophia. Yes, and it might ruin me. Not because I did anything wrong. Because stories don't care. He didn't look away. Then I will spend my reputation before you spend yours. She wanted to say don't. She wanted to say too late. She wanted to tell him that spending is easy when you've always had more. Instead, she said, cautiously, why did you tell me now? Because not telling you had started to feel like stealing, he said. And because I filed Friday. I won't hide behind a marriage I'm ending to justify a lie I'm living. She absorbed that. Some part of her piece that had stood in a courthouse with bad fluorescent lighting ranked the sentence as one of the few that met the bar. What do you want from me? she asked finally. Nothing, he said, the words solid. You don't owe me conversation, let alone forgiveness. I'll hand off anything that touches your work. If you want me to resign, no, she cut in, sharp. Don't you dare make me responsible for your job. We're not doing that. He nodded once, relief not quite Then I'll do what I said. HR, board, disclosures, and I'll stay out of your way, and if I need a quiet exit again. She said, the line trying to be a joke and failing halfway. You won't, he said, because I'll make sure the entries are quiet too. They stood there, the confession still hanging in the room, stubbornly refusing to turn into anything easier. She picked up her notebook. I have a sprint to land, she said. I know, he said. She was at the door when she stopped. Blake, she said, because the habit wasn't ready to die. What you did wrong, he supplied. Complicated, she finished, because she was not ready to give him the gift of absolutes. And wrong. But the parts where you fixed it. Do those faster. He nodded. Yes, she left. He stayed, the city behind him suddenly too large to use as a mirror. He pulled out his phone and typed a memo title he didn't let. Legal right, disclosure of undercover assessment and recusal commitments. He CC'd HR, the board, and Mara. He BCC'd Raj because someone needed to be ready with soap and water. When he hit send, the room didn't cheer. It just felt aligned even, if alignment meant knives. He walked down to 22, not to find Emily, but to put his body where the budget would land. He passed Alex in the hall. The VP's smile was pure gossip. Busy day, Adrian, Alex said, lingering on the name like a smear. Adrian smiled back, a millimeter. Busier tomorrow, he said, and kept going. At her war room door, he paused. Emily was inside, head bent over a laptop. Team gathered, progress happening. She didn't look up. Good, he thought. He turned away. Not a CEO disguised as a consultant, not a consultant hiding a CEO. Just a man who had finally said his name out loud and was prepared to pay in full. Outside, the city kept moving. Stories spun. Paper walls rustled. Somewhere between floors 22 and 35, something like steel and mercy tried to coexist in his chest. He didn't know if that was allowed. He knew only this. The experiment had become a choice. And for the first time in years, he liked the risk.